Without waiting, let's start our tiny webinar, which is part of our Cut the Fluff campaign. So what we're trying to do this year at Synthosys is really don't stop investing in people. We understand we have budget cuts. There is big issues happening worldwide, and the first area to suffer is people development. So this is why we decided to launch the Cut the Fluff campaign. And today's topic is really dear to my heart, and it's about the burnout and how we look at burnout in ourselves, but also as a system. Now, can I ask you to put a reaction if you had personally or know someone close to you, a friend, a colleague who had a burnout in any stage in their career? Just add your reaction so I can see, because you might not all be able to raise your hands if you don't have the camera on. Okay, I can see. Thank you for sharing, Indira. Even myself. Anyone else? Okay. So, before we jump into the topic, I can see Joe writing. Yes, and I agree. And within my coachee, Joe, as well, I can see this is a topic that is coming really, really more often. If it's people in burnout or on the edge, near close to it. And also, Emma, thank you for sharing this. So I think almost all of us experienced burnout, or we knew someone who suffered from burnout. Now, just okay, Andy, I just muted you to have not the noise background. Sorry for that. So, what is burnout? A simple definition for burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged and repeated stress, which we all know stress is the biggest problem impacting many of us in our daily life, especially now with this very fast-paced world where we all run, get tons of emails. And what I'm seeing globally as well, leaders are expecting people with much less resources to do much more, which is also not helping at all when it comes to stress. Now, I want to explore with you the reality of burnout, and I can share with you later on those research and data where they came from. So 63% of UK employees exhibit signs of burnout in 2024. I don't want to read all of them. You can have the slide at the end as well. 1 in 5 UK workers took time off because of mental health. Okay? They also say, the numbers say that half of the illness-related case at work are due to anxiety, depression, and stress. But the most interested one for me, unfortunately, is the last one, is that the poor mental health, including burnout, is costing UK employers 51 billion annually. Now, I don't want to really do complex math, but I wanted to share this with you so we can reflect together. So 51 billion annually divided by 37K, which is based on the latest figures, the average salary in UK, means that if we tackle the burnout and remove it, we can create 1.3 million full-time jobs. I really want you to a little bit step back and think about this. I know it's very easy to say it in a slide, but I want us to think beyond the person and about the system. So if we can really cure burnout rather than dealing with the consequences, we can open 1.3 million jobs, which actually these jobs might help reduce burnout because your teams will get bigger. It's a little bit funny that cycle we're in. And the latest number shows you actually that unemployment in UK in 2025 is 1.6 million. So actually it means if we solve the burnout completely, we can really, that's it, almost cancel unemployment. Redundancies, I tried to find those numbers. So from January 2024 until June 2025, were around 600,000 people. So again, all these people could have kept their jobs, you see, if we're not spending so much on remedying issues between burnout, mental health, and so on. Now, it's easy to put the numbers like that, and I'm sure that the details will be different and particular, but it's just for us to sit together and think about the bigger picture. Now, the question I have is, and this is what me and Vanessa, we ask all the time, are interventions in organizations working? That's the biggest question we want to tackle to understand what is happening. And in fact, what organizations want, and I think we agree with them, is the beautiful things we see. We want happy employee, we want better productivity, we want better numbers for the business, but without compromising mental health. We want to have attraction of talents, retention, and so on. It's a beautiful list. It's a dream. We all want that. However, again, looking at the numbers, you can see that from 2022 to 2024, so a little bit after the pandemic, there was a big increase in investment when it comes to wellness, to coaching, from group coaching to individual coaching, to EAP, and so on. And this investment, you can see it's in billions. So let me put my laser here, in £1 billion. So it went from 2 here in 2022 to almost 3. However, the desired outcome is not happening. What we're seeing is the opposite, actually. The working days lost per year, so this is in million days, are increasing. So we went from actually 20 million to around 33. So we're not yet the double. So again, what is happening? My biggest question to you and to myself is why this gap? What we want to understand is this gap, what is happening? And this is why we built Synthosys. So a little bit now to step away from the gap, which are going to go back to it. So Vanessa, my wife and business partner, who is a psychologist, and myself, coming from motorsports engineering and leadership coaching, we built Synthosys because ourselves, we were part of that system where we suffered from burnout, from ineffective intervention. We saw the impact on ourselves in situation and on others, which we saw it working with different clients. And what we try to do is to bring a niche approach to how we can reveal what others cannot see, those hidden patterns, to really create a transformation at the system level. And actually, it's a very happy day for me because yesterday our article was published. I want to share this with you about our model in the peer-reviewed journal Organizational Development. So it's really the best timing of the year for that. Now, going back, so this is what we do. How we do it, we work at 3 levels. We look at the personal, at the group, so as a team, or at the system. And we strongly believe that if we just keep focusing on personal, so remedying, let's say someone is in burnout states, we get a coach, we get a therapist, we give them some days off. It's very good, it's important, but is it enough to tackle that deeper end of the iceberg, the system, that is really very hard to change, but once it happens, this is where transformation comes. Now, before going back to the gap, I want to a little bit explain more this through a personal, which I find a little bit funny experience, which also opened our eyes to why we need Synthosys. Back in the old days in Italy, I used to live, when I was doing my PhD, I used to live in a flat sharing, a big flat, amazing people. And I spotted the problem that we were in 6, so repeating myself 6, and we had a very tiny bin to recycle plastic bottles. This bin was getting full 5 times per day at least. And for me, it was insane. That's not efficient. So like any HR or any leader, I want to solve the problem and make our life easier. I went and I got a bigger bin. That's it, done. So imagine paying resources for an intervention right away, implement, and we're happy. The results were worse. The bin was getting full quicker. And it's because the people stopped compressing the bottles. And this is where my solution failed, and it made me reflect about us as human. I tackled the surface problem and then focus on the system and the behavior change. And this is what we see often happening in organization. We see, for example, something booming when it comes to team coaching or to wellness program or retreats, which are all fabulous things. But right away, we associate that these can be the solution to what we have. And then when we don't reach the desired outcome, this is where the board gets angry at the CEO or the COO and the executives, and the blaming starts and why we're not getting where we want to be. So please remember this word, the system. Now, in fact, speaking of system, so the World Health Organization recognized that our issue when it comes to burnout, to stress, and this phenomenon is not personal failure. It's not because I'm not resilient enough. It's something we challenge a lot in our approach. No, resilience is good, but it's not enough. It's the lack of tools, keep that in mind, and the lack of a framework, which again for us translate directly to looking at the system as a whole. From our observation, that's what we saw as well to confirm what the WHO is saying, from working in organizations in the past, but also working with organization. In different sector, in different field, the problem was always the same in a different color. And our, let's say, shallow conclusion here, without boring with detail, is that what we are noticing is a lot of guesswork. So again, I have a challenge in my company. I'm not feeling okay. What can I do? Many time is like trying to guess what is booming, what worked with others, what can I do, or what worked in the past. So the guesswork is a big issue. Second is the fast need for results. And God help us with AI, this I need even to update this slide because it's getting worse. The expectations of fast solution and quick wins are becoming too much to handle. And now we focus on having that quick win rather than having a sustainable solution that can really, let's say, tackle the iceberg and shift the directory or the trajectory, let's say, of where we are going. And then again, what we observed, and we do it through our TIC model, which means T for teams, I for individual, and C for culture, is that we have three biases that are constantly connected and impact each other, from the personal to the group to the system. Now, how do we create a performing team without the burnout? There is no magic solution or no, let's say, magic bullet, okay? But I want to share with you, so our approach with some light case study, you can find more details on our website, to how we look at it through our 4C model. So our model came from fusing expertise in motorsports engineering and psychology to create something new, to see the unseen and measure the perception of people in team dynamics and culture. We decided to go against the traditional approach where we have a lot of personality tests and they are all fantastic, from the DISC to MBTI to etc. Okay. However, we find that sometimes knowing the personality doesn't create a high-performing team or this great environment. So we try to measure what no one does, which is the perception of how people see things and how much are they misaligned. And we give that to you in a big matrix, showing right away where are the hidden patterns with the biggest misalignment. Our 4C model assesses 10 traits from decision making until innovation. You can see them here. And we saw that if you in your team, you can have effective, high-performing environment on those 10 traits, burnout naturally will be at the minimum. But burnout, stress, and collaboration will increase, you see? So think about accountability. Think about trust, adaptability to any event or disruptive events, goal setting, communication, the way even we see conflict resolution, but even decision making and information sharing. Now, those traits, we have 4 dimensions to assess them, and then I will show you the results. So when we look at a culture, we have our 4C, which goes from control, very hierarchy, structure, imagine government, universities, big corporate, top-down approach. We have connect, is more a team, like a small team, small startup, family feeling. We have create, again, startup, very innovative. Think of Apple in their early days. They were very create and connect. And now they grew to become much more compete and control. But then they went back to be create. Funny story. Compete, if you think about compete, is how we compete with the market. So even when Apple is competing with Samsung, or in the past with IBM. So these are culture that your people will perceive differently. And misalignment in those things will create conflict, will create misunderstanding, and on the long term as well, will create burnout on a system level. Now, on the dynamic, and there you go, before the dynamics. So this is a roadmap, a heat map done on a team. That team, it was a merger. And without too many details, what came out, so first of all, the stronger the color, the biggest the misalignment. And you can see there is a lot of it in the compete. There is a big misalignment in that merger, in that company, how they perceive competition. But what stood out for us is this one here, which is decision making when it comes to connect. And when we plotted the profile for that team, it was a merger between a big company and a smaller one. What was really, really outstanding was that the red, as you can see here, representing 47% of the team, so really almost half, were perceiving their culture as compete. So we have to compete with the market. Our decision making is data driven, very analytic, statistics, what the competition is doing, how can we push performance. The other half, look at the green one, which is 49%, was seeing that culture more as connect. So decision making comes from collaboration, understanding us as people, what can become first, and then the competition. And then this is where the burnout happened in the room. Decision cannot be made. It doesn't matter with the best coach in decision making. It doesn't matter with the best MBA. Unless you understand that misalignment and everyone start to see the other perspective, you're not able to drive effective change. You can have the QR code for more case study on our website. Now, the second part, and I will again go with a case study as well quickly, then I will open the floor for questions, is the dynamics. Culture is not enough. It is about how we define the dynamics in a team. And our model talks about 4 C's here: consolidation, collaboration, consistency, and clarity. And I want to take an example before I jump to other example. I was coaching a manager, and he was sending emails every Monday, detailed, amazing, clear. No one was reading them. Nothing happened. When I sat with that leader and we tried to discuss this, his solution was to send a longer email, but starting at the top by saying apology for the long email. And I found this the best example to share always with the dimensions here. What was happening with that leader, he was playing too much on consistency in our model, very consistent, very structured, every Monday, a long email. And he was very clear, bullet points, this is what we did, that's what we need to do. However, his message lacked 2 very important dimensions. It is how your message makes the team feel that there is a consolidation, that they are part of that message, rather than just informative. So they can really mobilize them towards a vision. And then as well, collaborative, because as well, feeling the cohesion is one thing about the value of the company, But how can we collaborate now? And what is needed from Tarek, from Indira, from Andy, Joe, or Emma is another thing. And this is where, when he tackled those 4 dimensions, his message changed completely. These are the bias, which we can share with you, where we associate them with each dimension. But what I want now to share as well in another case study here. That was a research team that we work with. Also, they were on the edge of burnout. And our main work with them was around communication. They had issue in communication. Nothing works. It doesn't matter if they do a course. They tried, workshop, coaching and communication. What our assessment revealed, again, because we focused on the system, is that the whole team almost, as you can see here, they were very, very towards connection, family feeling, and so on. One profile in that example, only one profile, the red one, stood out as compete. That profile was the leader in that team. So if you think of a team and the leader is compete, very focused on the market. How can we drive innovation, push? But the whole team wants connection. They value that as a family. It doesn't matter how your communication is clear, it will not make any impact. And more interestingly, looking at the communication trait here for our 4 dimension. So every red dot represents a percentage of the team. The bigger the dot, the higher the percentage. Okay. And what is their average value in common? That they're very close to each other. So the further the dots are from each other, there is a bigger misalignment. And the closer they are more aligned. Funny enough, consistency scored the lowest, and it was the same across all dimensions. But not only it scored the lowest, it has the highest alignment. Like 2/3 of the team were agreeing that they were lacking consistency. While other dimensions now, as if you think collaboration, there is a bigger misalignment. 1/3 of the team is very low. And again, what we're trying to do here to push our message is, if we don't really understand the perception of each other in that system, we are not able to really solve a problem effectively, inside out. I want to close with this slide that we always do it in almost every workshop. And we love it because it represents the essence of how we work and how we see ourselves and each other's. And the message to all of you is that for us, we are often the ant setting an objective north, but marching towards it on the back of an elephant heading south. If you don't understand your elephant, you're not going to tackle the problem effectively. So let's go again to a leader. If you are a leader and you see burnout in your team, you will be the ant right away, jumping, thinking of a coach who can help in burnout. What can we do? How can we help Tarek struggling, for example? This is very good. But if you don't look at the hidden, invisible elephant in the team, where it is heading and what is causing that burnout from the start, or even the challenge outside burnout, you're not going to drive effective solutions. Now, our gift to you here is this small rogue model that we published a paper in the BPS. And I took you through the slides with the phase of the model. And the message here is that the next time you face a challenge, you on the personal level or in your team or your system, start by assessing the reality. It's very important. What is happening there? What are we doing? What is working? What is not? Then think about the outcome that you want. This will reveal the gap, the third stage. What's the gap between your reality and the desired outcome? Once you create very good awareness around the gap, this is where you can start driving transformation. You dive deep into the understanding of what's the cause and how we can tackle that. And then from there, you emerge with effective intervention and solution. It's a coaching model that I built and I use with clients, and I really love how it's effective. But since I created, I'm a bit biased, but I really would love you to use it as well. Think about it, even outside the coaching room. Understand reality, understand the gap, and then drive the effective solution. Now, a quick way to wrap things up here, guys, how we can help you at Synthosys. If you ever feel you need support or help, we have our Cut the Fluff campaign. As I told you, we don't like the fact that people are cutting budget on people development. So we launched a campaign until December where we are offering constant webinars for free. We're offering 2 our flagship workshop for £15. One of them is Women in Supervision and Leadership, only for women, a closed group, safe group. And the other one is my Rogue ICF model with a certificate, only until December. We also do heavy discount on 360-degree assessment and our flagship 4C. And also we do leadership. We call it journey, but let's say it's a course, but it's a more a journey to accompany you from scratch to where you want to be as a leader, understanding your compass to becoming a future-proof leader. Now, before next appointment, that's the update. We're gonna let's say share with you the next webinars. Please, guys, I would love to hear your reflection, your thoughts, and most importantly as well, your feedback, if you can, by scanning this code. Any question or reflection to bring to the room so we can, all of us, let's say, share insights. Yes, Indira, please go.
Myself,
You're
there
on
we go.
mute.
Yeah, I found it. It's fine. So, Tarek, I was struggling a little bit to understand the alignment piece. When you're talking about alignment, I can see that there's some alignment we're looking for within the team. So is it that you're looking for everyone to perceive things in the same way? That there's an alignment in perception within the team? And the next question around that would be, how do you get that, and why is that so important? I get the burnout piece. And there was another slide a little bit further back where I was getting a little bit lost as well. But do you want to start with that one?
Yes, let's go. I love that. And I will tell you a real example right away. I had a client, which I just finished my journey with him yesterday, and he was talking about he want to align his team. I asked him, after listening to him, I asked him, are you looking for agreement or alignment? And it's a big difference. It's a big difference. We don't want agreement. It doesn't matter. Because our model as well tells you, even if there is someone at work that you don't like, you can still collaborate effectively with them. And it was my case even in the past. When I was leading a team, there was a person who could not stand me. I never understood why. Okay. But I managed for 2 years to collaborate effectively and transform a complete program. That's why we believe in that. So it's not about everyone agreeing, but it's about understanding the unconscious or subconscious hidden pattern, how people see things. Because the problem we see often is that if you don't understand my perspective, you're not going to have empathy to what I'm saying, and you're just going to throw at me your argument. So what we do, we have a 22-minute online questionnaire we send to the team where there are some scenarios to think about and choose the closest, let's say, that they feel is true, from decision making to conflict resolution. Then based on that, we have an algorithm that we built. It will track subconsciously how they are rating things and create all those profiles. And for example, what we say, take back the decision-making team. I'm going to go back to this slide. Here, the solution was not for all of them to have a common profile. It was just to say, well, let's say, Indira, you're a green profile, you're about connect, and me, I'm about compete. If Andy comes in and highlight that misalignment, you will understand me more why I talk too much about numbers and the market. And then I will understand you more why you talk too much about the people and the team and how to this. And then with this threading, you start building the decision making. But the point is never to have a unique profile. That's terrible for diversity and it will kill innovation and it's not good. I hope it answered the question, Indira.
Yeah, thank you. It is, and I'm relating it to some of the work that I've done with some teams as well. So that makes it clear as to what the aim is behind this and how that is dealt with in a way that doesn't put so much pressure on an individual that they're feeling so out of alignment with themselves because of the way they're being asked to behave or perceive things. Am I on the right track with this thinking? Because I really want to understand this.
Yes.
And it's and therefore you can have a team discussion, obviously, starting with the leader, hopefully, and start to build greater understanding. But it doesn't necessarily mean that any one individual has to change their own preferred way of being, I suppose, when
You're
it's
spot on.
in being true to themselves. Like I don't want to adapt so far that I have lost myself. I still want to stand in my own values, what I believe is my truth, who I know myself to be, my strengths, blah, blah, blah. And I would want that for many other people that I would lead. However, we also can change our behaviours in order to get a better result when perhaps what we're looking for is greater collaboration, but you have got a highly competitive person in the team. What does it take to get the task done or achieve the results or be a really productive, powerful team? So I think I'm clearer now on what this really shows and therefore what you would do with it. That's what I was. Am I being clear?
You're spot on. No, you're spot on, Indira. At the end of the day, we created this model on purpose because we don't look at the people, we look at the system and their dynamics. Because also think about many teams, okay? Sometimes you have a team that rely on two high performer. Then when they go away, the team collapse because no one can do this task. Oh my God, we lost suddenly the glue of the team. What we try to build is a system that is resilient no matter what the change. So everyone needs to be themselves, but they need to be looking at the same thing at least. If I keep looking at competing with Apple, for example, and you keep looking at how can I support Andy in our team, we're never gonna get anywhere in life. It's about saying, look what Tarek is saying, and look what you're saying. No, perfect. What is the best compromise? But you're spot on. It's not to change behavior. It's right away to work on the system level.
Yeah, and to build awareness of the system, greater awareness of what's actually going on in the system. And if I can share something that fits right into this,
yes,
and it's really jolted my sort of perception of one of my clients. I've worked with them quite a while, with individuals, with groups. Right through the business, really, all the levels, apart from the operational level. And this has just really, really sort of heightened my awareness today, Tarek, that I've not really challenged the system enough, because what you've just talked about is fundamentally the ethos, the culture is green driven, which is connection. Whereas the CEO is red driven. So he's a very charismatic, dominant, inspirational person. But there's a bit of a misalignment. And I've seen that grow as the pressure has risen. And, the signs of that are, I'm making a difference there, but it's just given me a fresh impetus to go when I have the next conversation. And the challenge is at the moment, I haven't spoken to him for a while because he's embroiled in all equity and investment, which
Ah,
again is, you know, he's even more disconnected from the business. So it's really interesting, this, and really jolted my sort of thinking today. So thanks for that.
and I love that. I will add on that as well, which links to even what Emma wrote in the chat, that it's very difficult to challenge the system when the CEO think everything is fine.
Exactly.
And the example I gave about the agreement alignment to you, Indira, is with that actually CEO, is that what they do usually in company, they think everything is fine, they see the team struggle, then they try to get support to the team so they can work and perform better. Because the CEO thinks it's all fine and we're very competitive. What we show them those data, look where your team is heading, what they perceive, what's the gap and what can be. Then we start working, maybe I'm being too consistent, okay, with them about what we need, but I'm not being enough consolidating or building that collaboration with them. And sometimes it's about the CEO stepping in the room, being vulnerable and saying, look, I need your help in this. I know it's difficult times, the numbers are down, I need your help. What can we do as a democratic leader? Again, easier said than done.
Of course.
But I agree with you. You know what Timothy Galloway said in his book, The Inner Game of Work? You have to start from the top when you want to coach and make a change.
Exactly. But that's easier said. That's more difficult than us just talking about it, because people at the top invariably say, work with my people at a lower level.
Sure.
I think there's a place there for tell me how we're going for time, Tarek, because I'm free.
Yes, go.
With my thoughts. But I'm thinking about an NHS trust that I worked with, and there may be room at the top for a very red leader because they're looking at the external view, and maybe competition really matters when it comes to strategies, decisions, etc. I mean, I do question it myself. However, it doesn't mean that that person then needs to expect that the leaders under them immediately, and I'm also thinking a bank I worked with, that those very senior leaders need to be the same, that red leader could expect them to actually be more green, for instance, or more into the creative or whatever. So I'm thinking that it's also about having a clearer understanding in the system of the kind of roles, and that plays right into recruiting in the end, that need to be in place for all of this to then flow down and people actually manage to bring it all back up to the results they're looking for at the organisational level. So I think, you know, that bias that's carried, and I suppose all of the different diagnostics try to break down, is showing the diversity of people, but also the diversity of the roles, and making that okay. And being flexible enough to allow that, but to actually ask for it. So maybe the help they need to be asking for is, help me understand these roles and what needs to be in place developmentally. We're all biased towards human development. That then allows those roles, the people in those roles, to be effective at that level. Is that a reasonable thing to be thinking?
It is, and it resonates. I think we're all saying the same thing in a very good way, and I like that, is the fact that, you see, go back to that red leader, CEO or co-founder, if they don't accept the culture that is there, if it's green, they're not going to be effective. You see, like there is always, when I do culture workshop, I always ask a great question as a start to them, to the executive in the room. What do you think organization is culture, or organization has culture? And then they get all lost for 10 minutes. Think about this, because the issue is that when you join an organization, it has a culture that you have to adapt to somehow. But then the more this organization grows, the people in it are changing that culture somehow, with the size, with the time, and then the organization itself is becoming a culture. It's no more having a certain culture. And you see, so there is this back and forth as well to think about. But it's very interesting. And some leaders failed because they could not adapt to the change in culture.
But I can see, if I flip that over, Tara, I can see that a CEO can still be very effective. They could be ineffective, or they could be very effective, but at what cost to the people?
Bravo. It goes back. I love the magic word you said. What cost to the people? You see, because sometimes we show the big profit we did in a company, but then we don't shed the light on maybe how much we spent on well-being or redundancy or change in staff and so on. But I agree. I love that, Andy.
Yeah, or not even the cost, not even the pounds and shillings and pence, just the cost in terms of the way it affects people's lives, the amount, and we go back to burnout then, or potential moving towards burnout. And it's my thing is you just about, it's about that. Does our system have the ability for people to be having their conversations with their line managers all the way through the organizations? And are those conversations relevant and useful and beneficial to both parties? And from my experience, that doesn't happen in most organizations, which it should, because that creates the culture.
I think there's a greater cost. Sorry, Tarek, you might want to respond to that. My mind's going very fast now.
Yeah, do you want to respond? If you can be very quick, Indira, if you want.
Well, I was just going to say the cost is ultimately to the business itself, because that's when they start to fracture and fall apart. And seeing that in the NHS at the moment as well. So, not that that's my total focus, but I'm aware of the impact that can have, and ultimately it will cease to exist. And there'll be a major misalignment between the brand it's espousing and the profile it's putting out into the public. But the public also has an incredible antenna that starts to pick up when there's misalignment within the organisation itself. And I think organisations greatly underestimate that in their own clients, and what people are attracted to. And the word gets around, So Glassdoor, you just go onto Glassdoor, read about the organisation. So I think that's where that understanding is really, really vital. And then it does for me, when what I'm seeing in the people that I'm speaking with a lot at the moment is that it translates right down to, so how does a manager need to be, and how do they grow into senior management and into leadership? And ultimately, I mean, the work you're doing, Tarek, is great at that level, and it still ends up, the cost is at that lower level, if you like, in the hierarchy, where people don't know what they're doing and how to do it and who they're speaking to and what does this email mean and how do I do my day. So then they're running around trying to work it out and just getting something done for the sake of getting something done sometimes, to prove they're still worth employing, which is a very cynical approach, but I've seen that too. So anyway, I'll stop.
No, it's amazing. I will give you an example on that, and then I will close the webinar. So exactly on what you said, both of you now, the last point. So I was supposed to do a work, which I didn't at the end, with a company. It was to coach one of the staff, a leader, going through burnout, and how he or she, let's be more like that, he or she can handle better the team effectively. I sat one session with the leader and I said, no, we need to speak right away. The three-party, we don't contract with the HR and your manager as well. And then I told them firmly, so you have a leader that anytime anyone can complain, they go right away to HR above them to complain about the leader. Sorry. And then the HR come down on the leader to say, do 1, 2, 3. So I told them, if you don't fix that cultural issue where why things don't go to the leader first, you're not giving the leader a chance to succeed. And there is a bigger system here. So even if I charge you $250 per hour for coaching, it's not going to change anything. I can sit with the leader, can help them, do whatever you want, but it's not going to solve the problem. And you're right, guys. The problem is that sometimes the system, we're not aware of what's happening, and we go on random intervention of what is the buzzword in the market. And it's quite sad, and I cannot blame them. It's a learning journey for all of us.
Correct.
Yeah. With that, guys, I really
That's
hope
good.
you enjoyed the
Thank you.
session, and let's all cut the fluff together. So I wish you a lovely weekend, and I hope to see you on the next one as well.
Cheers,
Thanks.
Tarek.
Lovely to
Yourself
meet you,
too.
Andy and Emma
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Cheers, Indira. Nice to see you. Have a good
You
weekend.
too. Okay.
Bye bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
Tarek.
Thanks. Bye, Tarek.
Enjoyed that, buddy.